All right, Nick. Heading to the bottom of the ninth. Nick Lodolo trying to secure a complete game shutout. Hopefully the crackling is gone. I have basically just completely rewiped the whole entire setup that we had at one time, maybe thinking that it was some kind of corrupt file that was getting in the way. If it's fixed, great. If it's not, well, I'll go back to the drawing board tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Well, you never know. You never know with technology. I'd also say for folks that are obviously watching this back later, it is currently 2:20 in the middle of the day, which I don't think bodes all that well, to be quite frank, with either of our schedules. Nick is currently playing daddy. I don't want to say daddy daycare. That makes it sound bad. But, you know, you have kids in your house. They're wandering around on their own as we speak. We're trying to make sure that we're being at least somewhat vigilant adults and make sure that if something were to go bad, then so be it. So we are humans after all. If something does happen and Nick has to go take care of something, that's not that big of a deal. And hopefully same goes for me. But Reds, they're winning 5-0. That's a positive. And I guess that's what we have to do on this show is be positive about the fact that they did find a way to win today. And like I said before last night, if nothing else, Nick, if nothing else, I think that the banner that we will hang at the end of 2025 will have nothing to do with really, you know, things that maybe you'd genuinely be proud about. But we will not get swept as long as Nick Lodolo and the Cincinnati Reds don't give up more than 5 runs in this inning.
Yeah, Lodolo's 2 outs away from a shutout.
Was that 1 pitch, 1 out? That's what I just seen.
That was 1 pitch, 1 out. He's at 97 currently.
Well, we can always appreciate the Nationals wanting to get on with their day as well. I'll tell you what. If Nick Krall can't work with this, boy, I don't know what you can work with, you know?
I kind of hate this. Like, I'm totally, you know, I'm 100% with you, but it's like, man, the business of baseball does suck.
Oh,
like,
let's
be honest. Like, I've started following Nick Lodolo when he was with the Dayton Dragons, and you know, really was excited about him. There was this fun little. It was fun, like this competition of Lodolo or Greene, who's the better one. And Lodolo just could never put a whole season together, and he finally does it. It's like, yeah, if you're gonna be a smart baseball team, you got to try to trade him right now. Like, it does suck. It's brutal.
Oh, there's no doubt that being a smaller market franchise is just not ideal, period. I know people get tired of hearing that, but like even Luis Castillo, right? Like, I mean, yeah, if you had endless amounts of money, Nick, sure. I mean, no problem. You sign him, you have him. Could you imagine, like, you know, just what in 2023 you have Luis Castillo. I know you don't have Noel V. Marte, but again, it just goes back to the old adage that if you're going to try to win with the amount of money that you're given, you're going to have to try to be very, very aggressive in certain spots. And here's my thought. I see it from both ends of the spectrum in regards to whether you'd want to keep Nick Lodolo or whether you'd want to move him or shop him. It all depends, of course, on what you get. I mean, maybe you probably could even edit, you know, as we sit here and watch the 9th inning, you probably could edit this into the podcast where, you know, this is part of the show because we are genuinely probably going to talk about Nick Lodolo. And maybe I should sit here and wait and save the thought. In fact, I will wait and save the thought to see if he can get this final strike on Rosario as ball 2 misses low. I see both sides of it. I guess we'll save some of it here for the show, but I just always say that it's easy to make decisions with what's right in front of you. Reds win. Is that what we got? Reds win. All right, we're gonna do a show because we're gonna try to make this thing very efficient today. Much like this baseball game, you got to give the Reds and Nationals credit on getaway day. They made it nice and snappy. So here we go.
Before you do that, can you help me make sure we get up on Twitter here? What do we have?
Good call on that.
Updated here. PC.
Hold on, let's check. Currently, it says it's the stream key is D4BZ75. Here, let me see if I can actually me see if I can go in and help the call.
I found it.
You find it?
This one is Trace's house on Twitter, in case you were wondering. All right, so we're good to go. We're posted. We're rolling.
All right,
we're rolling.
All
right,
we are going to be back in just a second, and by a second, more like 3 minutes.
And a bench to bench, change hit in the air to deep right field. Back goes Clemente, and the save. He's done. Get out of here, baseball! It's gone! Oh my God! Can you believe it? Johnny Bench has tied it up. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series in 4 straight. It was a sweep. In the dirt, it's a wild pitch. Here comes Foster. The Reds win the pennant. Perkins won the game. That ball is fair. Cincinnati's ahead. 2 games to none. Welcome, Joe Landa to Cincinnati. Adam Dunn has done it again. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Marty, yes. This is Adam from Milwaukee. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Do you think Scott Hatteberg's a good player?
Dunn up there with the bases loaded, the outfield deep and around toward right, and the 1-0 on the way to the plate. Swung on, long drive, right field, and this one belongs to the Reds.
And a high drive, hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club. Benson's first home run is a walk-off winner. That ball had a family.
And De La Cruz is, oh my goodness, look at this kid run. My, oh my, that is a triple.
Matt McClain's first big league bomb. Spencer Steers' first big league hit is a home run to straightaway center field. Joey Votto's done it again. The pitch. Votto swings high in the air. Right field. Yes! He pointed to the dugout to say, I told you. That is Joey Votto's 315th career go-ahead ribby. Only Johnny Bench had more as a Red.
And I can't tell you how much it means to play in front of everyone here in Cincinnati as a Red. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. So thank you. Thank you.
I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the Laurent Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Red win! Win! Line to right field. Julian, the first Red ever, with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line, does it have a chance? The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves, throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
Fix that. We're gonna have to get that fixed. That nearly busted my eardrums. We've still got some technical issues to work through here on Chatterbox Reds after we've completely wiped the computer, but nonetheless, the Reds win 5-0, and it's a winning edition. It's a winning edition of Chatterbox Reds. It's been a while since we could have said that. Obviously, we did not get a chance to do the show on Saturday, so it's been since Friday that we've had the opportunity to say such a thing. Nick, I don't know exactly what all of this means when you win a game like today, but at least if nothing else, it makes you feel a little bit better about yourself. A little bit.
I'll tell you what it means. It means nobody sweeps the Cincinnati Reds, Trace. Nobody. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well hang the banner at the end of the year, no doubt about it. If you can avoid the sweeps for the rest of the year, it is something, I guess, to hang your hat on for a season of 2025 that we thought maybe would be a little bit different. But I guess we go back to probably the main discussion or the main discourse that's going to happen after today, which is going to be Nick Lodolo. And I just say, let's just jump right into it. We're going to do the box score recap presented by you. Give us kind of the Cliff Note version. And then we'll do the deep drive of the day, and we will get on with it.
All right, Reds taking on the Washington Nationals. Reds trying to avoid getting swept. No score going into the fourth inning. Reds were able to scratch across a run in the top of the fourth. Elly De La Cruz walked, and then Jake Fraley singled. Still no score going into the eighth. The Reds finally broke through in the eighth inning. A Noelvi Marte double made it 2-0, and then a Trevino sac fly made it 3-0. Will Benson was robbed of a 2-run home run that would have made it 5-0. But the Reds in the top of the ninth put across a couple more runs, another rally. Santiago Espinal singled, TJ Frieda walked, Matt McLean singled, and then the Reds put across another run on a Elly De La Cruz double play. I think his third double play in this series that he grounded into, which is wild enough. But none of that mattered, Trace, because Nick Lodolo was incredible. He throws his first career complete game, and it was a complete game shutout. 9 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 8 strikes. Lodolo threw 105 pitches. Never looked like he broke a sweat. Reds win 5-0. Reds 3 games above 500 at 53-50 on the season.
All right, folks. The deep drive of the day came off the bat of Will Benson. This was just after the old quippy line from the Cowboy. Nobody's going to hit one out to center field today. Line drives and ground balls. Line drives and ground balls. Well, just a few short innings later, Will Benson would hit one out, but unfortunately Jacob Young would bring it back, so it ultimately would wind up in a fly out, and I'm sure that crowd, as we currently speak, is saying, well, it's just a fly out in the books, folks. Meanwhile, that 24-mile-an-hour liner just over the head of the shortstop was a big, big, massive hit off of the bat of Santiago Espinal. But the deep drive of the day still belongs to Will Benson. 103 off the bat, 400 feet, 27-degree launch angle, if you give a damn. I personally don't. That would get the Reds a 3-0 lead still. So, as you all know, it wouldn't matter. Nick Lodolo would go on to get his first complete game shutout, and the Reds would win 5-0. DSC, they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. I also just realized that there's randomly some of those files back on my computer. I don't know what happened, but here we are. Sorry. I'm just my brain is in a pretzel as we speak right now. And it's a little bit in a pretzel because Nick Lodolo's efforts today. I'm going to say some unpopular things because I think that there's going to be some fans that are certainly going to be what I would call prisoners of the moment, and I completely understand why. And I would even argue that their opinion and their kind of side of the aisle could very well be the correct one. I'm not going to sit here and act. There's sometimes when I get opinionated, sure, and I feel like there's no way anyone can convince me otherwise. This is one of the ones with Nick Lodolo. Maybe I would concede that there's reasonable discussion. Let's face it, Nick Lodolo is one of the candidates that is at the deadline for trade bait. Now, whether or not you think that you're getting the right whatever value, and I put that in quotation marks, for him is going to be the ultimate decision of the front office. And I don't know really what exactly I would deem as worthwhile. If you're going to give me a super high-level top prospect that is, a year, maybe a year and a half away from making their big league debut based off of, kind of the progression of what they would be, I'm willing to take that in a heartbeat. I understand some are going to say that Nick Lodolo, Nick is a guy that you kind of need if you want to play meaningful baseball in October and win those series. and that's a guy that you need to rely on, and you could have a 1-2 punch with Hunter Greene and Nick Lodolo. And as you said before, this is a guy you've been following for a really, 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 really long time, and he finally puts together a season that you thought that maybe was going to happen at some point earlier, and injuries have always derailed that. And now you're like, well, we're just gonna pass on that. We finally got to the point where we wanted to, and now we're just gonna ship it away for what, another hopeful endeavor with another prospect. It is a tough business, Nick. I get it, but I'd ultimately say that most times, it's wise of you to sell high, and I don't know how in the world you could ever even be higher on Nick Lodolo as you would be right now.
Yeah, the business of baseball does suck because, I started following Nick Lodolo back when he was with the Dayton Dragons, was coming up as a really fun prospect. There was this really fun debate between the Reds, which one's better, Hunter Greene or Nick Lodolo, and it was a fun little thing for a while. And he gets to the big leagues, and he's really good right off the rip, and you're really excited about him. And then it's just been a struggle for him to put together a full year of consistency. And this year he's done that above and beyond. And now you're talking about selling that guy when he still has 2 years of control left. It does stink, but the case of Alexis Díaz. I mean, we just saw what happens when you don't capitalize on a guy that you feel like you probably should sell high on. You end up getting absolutely nothing for him. And I'm not gonna say that wouldn't happen with Nick Lodolo, but if Nick Lodolo the next 2 years has a hard time getting through 20 starts, would that really surprise anyone?
Right.
That's where we're at. I mean, I know that we both, and I think most of the fan base agreed. I think we all said you can't count on Nick Lodolo this year. Anything he gives you is extra. Right. And now we're to a point where, he's been great. And Lodolo's a little different. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, it depends on what are teams willing to give up. Other teams know Nick Lodolo's injury past, so they're going to weigh that with their decision making. But this also isn't a pitcher that is fluky either. Like, it's not like Nick Lodolo has a mid-3 ERA and it's been smoke and mirrors. He has a mid-3 ERA because he has really good stuff and he's a really good pitcher. So in that respect, the team trading for him knows if he's healthy, they're getting a top of the rotation arm. So I think you need to shop him. I don't think you are accepting anything other than a team giving you something of incredible value that would absolutely hurt them. A trade that if you were the Reds, I don't think you would make as a small market team. But, if it's a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees are a team really needing starting pitching, that's going to absolutely give you pieces that can alter the course of this franchise in some ways. I think you have to take that. But ultimately we'll see. I'd be curious to see kind of what the offers would be for Nick Lodolo, but make no mistake, if the Reds are not listening to offers for him, don't preach to me sustainability as a franchise. I don't want to hear that word sustainability again if you're not willing to shop offers for Nick Lodolo right now.
Let me make it very clear. You're not betting on the fact of whether Nick Lodolo is going to be good or not good. I think that debate is a dumb one. The debate to me is whether or not next start he comes out and he has a blister issue in the second inning, and then all of a sudden he's going to miss 2 or 3 or 4 starts in a row trying to get that fixed, and then all of a sudden there's another issue that pops up with his foot, and you find yourself in the same scenario, which is, yeah, we like him, but there's this huge asterisk that comes along with it, which is, I guess, similar to Hunter Greene in a way, if we're going to be completely frank, that there's always something that rears its ugly head at some point that kind of makes it to where they're not there all year. And to be very clear, it's very, very demanding to ask a starting pitcher to be, there all season long, every single year. We're well aware of that, but Nick Lodolo has had his run-ins with injuries. The crazy thing is, San Diego goes scoreless in the 9th. They lose 3-2, and now you find yourself in a position where you're 2.5 back. So, I don't know. I mean, you just dropped the series to the Washington Nationals. You have, and I'm going to try to be funny here in a little bit of way, but today you put out a lineup where you have Santiago Espinal playing first base.
Against a right-hand pitcher.
Against a right-hand pitcher, to be very clear. And yet you win the game, and somehow the Padres keep sliding.
They lose the series to the Marlins.
That's the $1 million question, Nick. That's the $1 million question is really not so much what you think this team can be. It's what you think they have to get to in order to make the postseason. Because if you were to tell me, Nick, hey, 85 wins get you in, maybe 84, 85. I'd be in here. Let's buy. We can get that done. I don't think that's going to be the case. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll slide down and it'll be an 85 win team or an 84 win team that gets you into the postseason. I don't see it. I think it's going to take 87 wins, and that might not sound like a lot to some, 85 to 87, but it is. It's a massive difference, and we'll find out whether or not the Reds decide they're going to be buyers and or sellers. And I guess if you're going to trade a guy like Nick Lodolo, you're conceding that you're a seller. Because
I don't necessarily think so.
Well,
I
if you're telling me last night that you can't get away with leaving or getting rid of Nick Martinez, then how can you justify that you can get rid of Nick Lodolo?
Well, you'd be going out and you'd be getting someone to replace him. I mean, it'd be a multiple. You'd have to have a series of deals, where you maybe go out and you, hell, the guy that pitched today from the Washington Nationals, Mike Soroka. Sure. He's the kind of guy that you could get to fill that role, or maybe even someone better. I don't know, but I think you could do multiple things at once. You could add and subtract, and you don't necessarily view the totality as its own thing. You kind of look at each player individually and say, okay, this guy, we're just going to get so much back for him that we have to capitalize on this offer. Doesn't really matter where we are in the standings. This is an offer that can, like I said, alter the course of this franchise in some ways. We have to take it. And then you could also buy at the same time. But I guess we'll see what happens this weekend. God only knows. I mean, God only knows where we'll be on Sunday night. I mean, I have no idea.
I don't either. I really don't know either. I just feel like I look at the schedule left for the Reds, and I look at the schedule left for the Padres, and I ask myself, is this realistic? Can I look myself in the mirror and think to myself that this is going to work out? And unfortunately, I've not been able to do that. For those that have, I'm not downplaying that. I'm not trying to say that you're wrong. I trust me. People think that the goal here on this show is to be right no matter what. The goal for me is just to watch my favorite baseball team at some point play games in the postseason that would basically have my heart racing before the first pitch. That's what I live for. I mean, I still vividly remember exactly where I was, like it was some national event that happened, similar to the likes of. And again, I guess I'll just say it because it's the first thing that came to my mind. Like, I know exactly where I was when 9/11 happened, and I know exactly where I was when I watched the Reds in their last postseason appearance. That's how big of an impact it has on my brain. You can say, you laugh all you want. I'm just telling you the God's honest truth. I know exactly where I was for every single game. I know where I've been for every single postseason game that I've ever watched for the Reds. I mean, it's not even that it means a lot. It does mean that, but it also means it just hasn't happened a lot. So I'm not rooting against them. I hope to God that they find a way to be clever here. I'm just openly saying, if I try to take the blinders off, would it shock me that next year Nick Lodolo has 7 starts? No, not even remotely shocking. Would it shock me even towards the end of this back half of this year that something flares up and we got either, like I said before, something just is a nagging injury that unfortunately sidelines him when it matters the most? No, it wouldn't. But to be very clear, we're not just getting rid of guys just to get rid of them either. So it has to make sense, and we'll find out if Nick Krall can find a way to negotiate. And I guess at this point, I got to figure out whether he's a good negotiator or not. Sometimes I think he's a genius when he gets the likes of he got the likes of Steer and Benson for what was basically next to nothing, and then all of a sudden, we signed Jeimer Candelario, and you think to yourself that he wouldn't be able to negotiate $1 off at a yard sale. So I don't know. We're about to find out here in a week. Any other thoughts on Nick Lodolo before we move on? We'll do some super chats.
No.
All right. Super chats will probably get us into our next discussion. We'll also do 988. Let's do 988 now. If you're ever in a spot where you feel like you need some help, as a reminder, 988 is a very, very good resource that you can text and or call anonymously as well. It's okay to not be okay. And it's also mantherapy.org is a good place to turn to if you're ever looking for resources to be able to try to manage certain situations throughout your life. Jacob Doyle chimes in. He says, "We will not be swept, period." It's a good point. I mean, we've found a way to avoid what has been monumental collapses all year long. As soon as you think you're dead, they find a way to make you think that they're not quite dead yet. I think it's leave it at the table. YouTube's taken away the whole entire thing, but if I can remember right from our previous experiences, that's what it is. Don't want to punch down on 37, but the noticeable difference behind the plate is wild also. I get the sentiment that there's a real shot in 2026 to be decent, and you need Lodolo at least to begin that. Possibly. I mean, it's all speculative because we came into this year and we thought Nick Lodolo would be an icing on the cake if he did anything at all. And we find ourselves teetering around 500, and he's been pretty damn good. Now, you could say if we didn't have him, we would be, well out of it, and that's possible. Matt McLean version of a pitcher. That's possible, too. I get that. So I just don't think that it's impossible to have success next year without Nick Lodolo. I'd like to think that you can move on, and as long as you're getting something of value, then that's fine. Anything to add there from and also the Tyler Stephenson thing? I don't totally know that. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm sure that there's been unbelievable starts from plenty of pitchers this year with Stephenson behind the plate. In fact, I think I know there has been. Off the top of my head, was Nick Martinez's almost no hitter with Stephenson behind the plate. I don't know if I'm not totally sure off the top of my head, but you know my sentiment with Trevino and Stephenson, and I know that that's a little controversial, so I don't want to go through it again.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no question like Nick Lodolo is hard to replace, but you're getting multiple pieces back. Like you're getting something of big value for your franchise. And again, unless you came into this year as a full believer, Nick Lodolo is going to turn a corner and stay healthy. A couple months of baseball, I don't know how that just rapidly changed your mind. It kind of feels like you've fallen in love with the results this year, which have been great. And again, we're rooting for Nick Lodolo. Even if the Reds traded him, I'd root the guy would stay healthy because I think he's worked really hard to get to this point. And it's a lot. It's unfair to label guys like these injury concerns, but they're working hard. But you have to look at this in the reality, and the reality is that it's just you can't bank on him. There hasn't been enough up to this point, and that's the kind of guys that I think you should be shopping.
Ned Flanders says, guys, it takes too many years to put together a solid starting rotation with depth. Can we please just keep Greene, Lodolo, Abbott, Lowder, Burns, and find our offense elsewhere? Pitching is harder than bats. I've been told that plenty of times, and I guess I'll just through, the psychological warfare that is listening to what everyone else tells you and believing it's true. I'm not saying the starting pitching is much easier to replace than hitting, but how many more years do I have to go where I watch an inept offense waste what is a good starting pitching staff? I'd like to have a little bit of balance is where I'm at. And again, you can sit here and try to say, well, the Reds offense statistically has done this or that. It's like the truth of the matter is that if you look at this roster and you ask yourself, what's going to be the difference maker or the reason as to why this team can't find a way to play meaningful games at the end of the year, it is the offensive side of the ball for me. They do not have enough good quality hitters that allow them to consistently rely on to win games. Yeah, they get hot for a week or two or maybe a game here and a game there, and you can kind of convince yourself that maybe they are, legitimately good enough, but they always fall back to not good enough. And I guess my thing is, if you're going to get something back in return for Nick Lodolo that could possibly help you again, I guess I'll throw out a hypothetical. And the White Sox give you a top prospect. You have to eat some of the Robert's contract, but you give up, Lodolo and a lower level prospect. Now, again, whether the White Sox want to do that, I don't know. I don't pay attention enough to the White Sox, situation to know. But point being is like, would you not be okay with that type of concept? And maybe, again, there's plenty of other ways to do it, but I'm just not married to the idea that just because this guy's thrown the ball well for 4 months, that all of a sudden he's an untouchable. Because if I would have told you, put it this way, if I would have told you in the offseason that you can trade Nick Lodolo for whatever they're about to be able to trade him at this deadline for, I would be willing to bet that 95% of this fan base would say, yeah, let's do it. Not just do it, but let's do it. We should have done it yesterday. But now, since this emotion has come upon us that he's thrown the ball well lately, we don't want to do that. And I would just say that's not what very good investors do. Investors make hard decisions sometimes. Like, this is a really good asset, but you know what? I know I probably can't get any more squeeze out of this thing. I'm going to have to let it go and try to make up ground somewhere else, because ultimately that's what good investors do. And that's basically what Nick Krall in the front office are. They trade assets, they retain assets, and they try to go out and acquire assets. And I don't know whether or not you can sit here and convince me that Nick Lodolo's, not replaceable. And it really just comes down to the injury thing. I just don't trust. I don't trust it. I just don't.
Look, if you do keep him, I mean, he better stay relatively healthy the next couple of years, or we're going to go back at this point in time, and we're going to be able to clearly say, like, this was a point in time, just like Alexis Díaz. And I think Alexis Díaz would have gotten traded. I fully believe that he would have gotten traded if the Reds wouldn't have played a little over their skis in 2023 for a couple months. I think they had planned to trade him at the trade deadline. Then they played well, and then they decided to hold on to him, and then they got absolutely nothing for him. And again, that should be a lesson, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. There's, again, to be very clear, there's no perfect solution. There's just not. I mean, if there was one, it would be an easy decision. We'd all agree on it, and we move on. I'll tell you this. Nick Lodolo couldn't have done the Reds a bigger favor than to throw the ball as well as he has over the last few months. And even specifically throwing the ball as well as he did today. So he's given them as good of a chance as you can have to get as much value back in return as possible. We'll find out what they ultimately do. Speaking of the offense, MiLB Marte, good day. Also, I guess, they kind of unfortunately weren't able to scratch anything across until later in the game, and then they kind of, I don't want to say blew it open, but in a way blew it open, and it was nice to see some decent at-bats. And again, it doesn't feel like we're in a better spot than we were just a few days ago, Nick, but at least it's nice to see a couple things. I think Marte has been the biggest bright spot by far over the last month. And I'd also say this, Jake Fraley, it's nice to see him have some success. I think that has hindered Benson's opportunities. And as I said before, I don't think that you can have them both because they both seem to me like the same type of player. But it is nice to see them, Fraley playing well. Whether you shop him or not, I don't know. I'm not going to get here and say that you trade every single player, even though my brain tells me that you kind of can sometimes. But I do think they need to probably make a decision on Benson and or Fraley, and they're going to have to find some value in return for one of them, because you just can't keep both of those guys heading into next season and be like, yep, we're gonna find a way for both of these guys to be on the roster all year. It's just, that makes no logical sense to me. So I know who I would pick personally. I know who I think has the higher ceiling. But it is nice to see Jake Fraley playing much better, because it did look like he was completely lost, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense in to trade one of those two players next week. Like, there's just no point in having both of them on the roster when one's going to sit on the bench against right-handed pitching. And you could say, well, what if one gets hurt? Well, you still have Rhys Hines at AAA. It's not like you have no outfielders at AAA that could come up and at least give you, an opportunity of a guy that could play well and hit some home runs and provide you some power and some pop. Yeah, I think Jake Fraley's a clear guy you would look to move at the trade deadline. He's going to be over $5 million next year on his last year as a under contract. I just don't think there's any way the Reds are going to tender that contract. I mean, Fraley's another guy that just hasn't stayed healthy. So Fraley's probably the one guy on this roster that in my opinion, I mean, you probably would be willing to sell even if you don't get a huge piece back, just because he's not coming back next year. And it's also possible that, Fraley's making a decent amount of money this year, that some of that money could be used towards, picking up a reliever or something. Because that's also a part of this, is the fact that, he does eat up a little bit of salary this year. So he could maybe provide you a little bit more flexibility elsewhere.
There's decisions that need to be made, and I'm hopeful that we find ourselves in a spot where we have to do something. And it's not even doing something to do something to make yourself feel better, because I think that there's times where as a fan you want them to do that as well. Like even in the offseason, right? You always hear about the hot stove, and it's like, what free agent we're going to go out and get? And then some of the free agents start to go off the board, and it's just past Christmas or the beginning of January, and they've not signed anyone, and you hear all these fans like, this is ridiculous. We're not. It's like, well, we don't play meaningful baseball for a couple more months. There's plenty of guys still out there. Let's just not make a move just to make a move. I'm not suggesting at the deadline that you just do something to do something, but it does to me seem like this is a huge opportunity, at least for my own personal reassurance, that this front office is going to find a way to at least do what they said they were going to do. That's what I'd like to see them do. They said that they believe that you can do both. You can buy and sell. Well, now's the time to do it, because you have a huge opportunity, I think, to do such a thing. And I guess we sit here on a weird edition of Chatterbox Reds in the middle of a day on the 23rd of July, and they're 2.5 games out. And I got to admit, if you would have told me that this team was going to go 500 out of the break, I just would have said, I don't know if that's good enough when you have the Washington Nationals on your schedule. And then you take 2 or 3 from the Mets, should have possibly swept the Mets, and you drop the series to the Nationals, and now you just feel disgusting about it. But once again, here come our good old 2025 Redlegs, and they're 500 after what is 6 games. So you just can't get ahead and you can't get behind here, Nick. It feels like that's what we're doing, and boy, is it frustrating. And I appreciate the fight back. I appreciate them getting a way to win when you feel like they're starting to slide, but it is nauseating sitting here going back and forth all year long. We either need to get this on the road and be done with it, or let's pack it in. Just 2.5 games out, Nick.
Purgatory, pure purgatory.
Boy, it feels disgusting.
My God, I hate being 2.5 back. I hate it so much. Like, oh, it's the worst spot to be in right now, because like,
the same
so
thing
many
you said about the
down.
Cardinals. The same thing that you've continued to say about the Cardinals, right? Which is, hey, there might be nothing better for the Reds than the Cardinals rip off 4 or 5 games this week, get themselves in a spot where they feel like, you know what, maybe we can do it. And they go out and they start buying some pieces, and that basically ultimately allows the Reds not to really have to maybe worry about them as much as you possibly could have had to worry about them in a year or 2 from now. That's the same thing that's the same situation we find ourselves in my opinion, Nick. That's the same thing.
You know who the Cardinals start a 4-game series with tomorrow?
I'm going to throw out a guess and say that it's going to be either the Brewers or the Padres.
The Padres.
All right.
So.
Well, you got to win. You gain ground on both of them if you win, no matter what. And that's the good news with the Padres as well, is at some point they're gonna, you're gonna play.
The Padres play the Mets. The Mets leading up to the trade deadline. So, right. I mean, if the Reds did somehow go out and rattle off a 5-1 week, I mean, they are going to gain significant ground in the standings somewhere.
Yeah. They'd probably be tied for the postseason. If they won 5 games this week, I think that they would be within a half game of the playoffs, if not in the playoffs.
Well, and the Mets are playing the Giants this weekend, the other team that's
Right.
like it is. Yeah, they're all jumbled up. So yeah, I mean, you have an opportunity over the next 6 days to win and gain ground. I wonder when the cutoff is, for when the Reds feel like they kind of have to have their biggest direction and plan, because I just don't think you can wake up on July 31st in the morning and say, hey, you know what? Well, we got enough ground back to where our playoff odds jumped up to 37%. We feel good enough. Now let's go try to make a bunch of deals. I think there's a little bit more legwork that goes into each of these deals than that. And I think a lot of other teams are also kind of wanting to make deals quicker, because especially if you're a seller, like right. you don't really want to be waiting till the last day to be fielding all your offers. You want to be feeling pretty good, at least going into the final day, that you have a plan A, a plan B, maybe even a plan C, because things are going to fall through. So I don't know when exactly the cutoff is. My guess is I would think by Sunday night, the Reds kind of, before they start that Dodgers series, they probably want to have a good idea and have 3 days to really hammer these things out. But I don't know exactly when that cutoff is.
I mean, the good news is this. They play a very good team. They play the Dodgers, right? And during that series, they are either going to be gaining ground or losing ground. There's no ifs and buts or in-betweens about it. And I think that's a good thing. I really do. Like, you either get by a very tough opponent, gaining ground, heading into, some more opponents that are also not going to be all that much different. They got a lot of good opponents heading out for the rest of the year. But there are some teams that they should be able to compete against and win. But you know what's funny about this team? I don't even know if we should do this anymore, because it seems like they play to their level of competition. They really do. It doesn't matter who they play. They're gonna probably more or less just find a way to win one game in the series, or perhaps win the series. But they're not going to get dominated, and they're not going to dominate either one of those. So, last couple super chats here before we head off to a little who, what, when, where, and why with the Little Reds MILB. I would assume that's going to be pretty difficult at 3 o'clock in the middle of the day, Nick. Probably just have some schedules. But Dunny17 says the Reds are 31-23 when Benson plays. Play him more. I love the random arbitrary stats like that you can just come up with to make yourself feel good about something. I don't know.
Personally, I prefer that he leads the team in expected weighted on base average. That shows that he's hit the ball hard and has got really crappy luck. But hey, if that feeds families, I'll take that one as well.
Will Benson's had some tough luck. He really has, but nobody really cares. Here's the funny thing. Will Benson at this point, in my opinion, has become like politics. You've picked a side. And you know what? It doesn't matter a damn thing you say about it. You ain't going to convince the other way to come over there. You talk to one crowd, Will Benson's absolutely terrible. He's a quadruple A player. He strikes out way too much, and he lollygags around the bases. He hits a ball off the wall, and he doesn't run. You ask the other side, and they're going to tell you his XOBA is better than everybody else on the team. He's got great energy. He's charismatic. He's got a beautiful smile, and he plays a good right field. He's got a great arm. He's got a huge upside, and his ceiling is higher than Michael Jordan even considered it.
Well, in baseball, yeah. Well,
I was talking about when Jordan said that the ceiling is the roof. That was the joke that I was coming up with. But nonetheless, I don't. At this point, speaking about Will Benson's just going to piss people off one way or the other, so I'm not going to do it. You have your side. You like him or you don't like him, and God bless you for it. Sean says, it hurts to say, but I would hate to be buyers now just to miss the dance and know that we're going to be hurting next year because we went all in. I don't think that even if they were to buy a little bit, they're killed for next year. I just think it goes back to the fundamental thought and value that when you have opportunities to seize the moment and you have players that you feel like you can get above average deals for that you otherwise wouldn't almost in any other circumstance, you take it. You just take it. Because like any good investment or any good businessman, if you have a deal that's sitting in front of you that statistically has a good chance to net positive rewards for you, you take it no matter what. You don't worry about when it's going to come because at some point throughout your life, you're going to have enough of those assets that have already hit for you that you just keep taking best player available. And I think that's the mindset, in my opinion, when you talk about drafts in general, right? People, that's the funny thing, Nick. People always say, almost 99% of people say when you draft players, not just in Major League Baseball, but even the NFL, what do you do? What do good organizations do? They don't reach, and they take best player available. And the reason they do that is because if you continue to do that over and over and over again, it's going to reap better results than to say, you know what, let's try to reach for this player because we kind of need that spot, and let's try to make some plan work out when we're trying to force something, maybe like a square peg in a round hole type situation. If Nick Lodolo is yielding you opportunities that you never even dreamed possible, you got to do it. That's all I'm getting after. And at the end of the day, I don't think no matter what they do here, to be very clear, Nick, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, I don't think that anything they do is going to devastate them for 2026 or not. It's more or less them just not continuing to put little small deposits in the bank that are going to pay huge rewards later. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, the reason the Reds' depth is not as good as it should be is because they haven't done that good enough over the years. You look at a team like the Brewers, like they have a player that they got from this trade and a player that they got from this trade. Like, you look up and down their roster, like it's not there's not a ton of, it's not all homegrown players. Like they have 12 homegrown players on their 40-man roster right now. Like they've picked up players. 18 of their players have been acquired via trade. So they have more players via trade than via homegrown talent. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's much they could do that would really hurt next year. But when you're preaching sustainability, these are the kind of times you have to capitalize and actually make that happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to see. It's going to be fascinating to see. We got 8 days, 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 44 seconds. And there is going to be a fan base that's probably going to divide it one way or the other. And you know what? If this front office was really, really good, they'd please them both. They'd please them both. They're either going to do that or they're going to piss them both off. I don't know which one it's going to be. All right, I think
we'll
I got
here
through
for it.
Yeah, we'll be here for it. I think that's all the supers. So if you want to do the Reds MILB and a little bit of who, what, when, where, and why, we will head off into the sunset on this Chatterbox Reds.
Only team in action right now is your ACL Reds, playing a day game today, a rare day game. They are leading the ACL Brewers 3-0 in the fourth inning. Tyson Lewis, 2 for 3. He stole his 19th base of the season. That's pretty cool. Lantigua is 0 for 2. No Sheng and Lin in action today. Everyone else in action tonight. Louisville at 6:35, Chattanooga at 7:05, Dayton at home at 7:05, and Daytona at 6:05. And then the Reds Trace start a 3-game series against the Tampa Bay Rays this weekend. The Rays have not officially announced their starters yet, but if it stays in line, Friday 7:10, Nick Martinez against Zach Littell. Saturday 6:40, Andrew Abbott against Ryan Pepio, I think is how you say his name. And then Sunday, 1:40, Brady Singer against Shane Baz. The Rays are at home tonight at 7:35 before they'll travel to Cincinnati. They're 53-49, almost identical to the Reds. Good year to be in the American League. That is only a half game out of the final wild card spot. But they are just 6-13 in their last 19 games. They have 3 All-Stars in their lineup, plus Yandy Díaz, who's been very good, although one of their All-Stars, Brandon Lau, on the IL. And they just added old friend Stuart Fairchild to the roster. Yeah. Reds 15-9 all-time against Tampa, but have lost 2 of 3 the last 2 years, and this is deja vu. I don't know if you remember this, Trace. Reds played the Rays literally the exact same weekend up until the trade deadline. Reds lost 2 of 3 last year, and I think most people's mind that cemented that the Reds were not going to be buyers at the trade deadline. So, deja vu.
Well, let's hope it's not the same result. I am very hopeful the Reds can rattle off. As I said before, they're going to have to win at least. They're going to have a 5+ game winning streak this season at some point to get it done. You can't convince me otherwise, man. It just seems impossible for me to think that this team is capable of winning series before they inevitably drop, a couple series in a row. It's going to take a run in the sun. That's what it's going to take, folks, and we'll see if they're capable of doing it. Parker Harris on the way out the door says, do we really want to be the Brewers? I'd rather the Reds make a run and it costs 5 years than lose the first round every year. KC may be bad now, but worth it for back-to-back World Series. Listen, I this is probably a debate for another day, Parker, but my thought is that the World Series in general, when you're a team or a smaller market team like the Royals or like the Brewers, it's kind of luck. I mean, it's going to be luck. Let's also face the fact that this is a different age of baseball than it was when Kansas City won the World Series. I'm not trying to downplay their what they did and their brilliance or anything, but like when you have the Mets and you have the Dodgers and you have the Yankees spending damn near more money than it's even comprehensible to think, and you have billionaire, multi-billionaire owners who are treating this as just some side hobby, like they're going down to the horse track and just throwing some 20s on some ponies and having some fun with their friends and drinking some beers. That's kind of what Major League Baseball ownership has become for some select franchises. And when that happens, it skews the playing field so significantly, in my opinion, of course, that the idea that you're gonna be able to systematically build, a baseball team that's legitimately supposed to win the World Series is not it. The goal is to get in the damn thing, get in the dance, get in the dance, and maybe you get hot for a couple weeks. Because let's face it, the sport of baseball can be fluky. You could. I mean, we've seen it ourselves. We'll go out and sweep the Dodgers, and then we'll be fighting tooth and nail to win a series and or even just not get swept by the Nationals. By God, if it wasn't for Will Benson, people forget, hitting a ball off the top of the wall against the Rockies, we would have lost to that inept franchise as well not that long ago. We would have lost 2 or 3 to them. So just get in the playoffs, and you got a chance. I'm not going to downplay the Brewers and what they've done because they just haven't been able to get past the first round of the postseason. I don't think that's systematically like a good way to think. Like, I could be wrong, but I'm just saying in general, if you got a team that's got a chance to go to the postseason every single year in and year out, I don't know what world I'm living in or you're living in, but I'll tell you right now, I'll take that. Sign me up for that.
I'm with that too, but I would also point out that the Brewers' best player those years was Lorenzo Cain, who they acquired when they traded Zach Greinke at his peak value. So they also got to the point. They did do some smart strategic buys, but their best player both years by wins above replacement was Lorenzo Cain, who they got for Zach Greinke, a all-star Cy Young pitcher that they traded to the Brewers at the trade deadline. Or not actually not the trade deadline, before the season.
Who'd they get for Corbin Burns?
They got Ortiz,
yeah,
and they got DL Hall, and I think they got some other players that haven't reached the big leagues yet.
Ortiz made an insane play against the Dodgers the other night. I don't know. I think I even texted you. I was like, this most absurd play he barehanded across the middle, throws the guy out, beats it by a half a step, and then they shut out the Dodgers. It's like, dude, the Brewers. But I get the point. I understand the point. We all don't know exactly how to get there for the Reds, but boy, it seems like it'd be nice if we could, doesn't it? So thank you for watching.
Trade anything to.
Go ahead.
Last point. I'll trade anything to win a World Series.
That's right.
Like I'll trade 20 years of losing to win a World Series.
Me too.
But again, you have to actually win the World Series, and I think the Royals are an awesome story. It worked out for them, but there's plenty of other teams that have tried to do that and have failed, who don't get remembered as much outside of probably their own individual fan bases.
Homework for Nick. Probably won't be able to do it because he's got a lot of things going on. But we have so many people in this chat that I think that somebody's willing to do this for me. And I will also tell you I very much appreciate you if you do this.
Crowdsourcing. This is John Boy stuff.
You ready for this? I would like to know where the delta is. When does it even out average-wise to where if you're the best team in baseball, so it's like statistically this year, give me the best team in baseball that has the best chance to win the World Series, right? So I don't know if that's going to be 8%, 9%, whatever that number ends up being. I want to know, statistically speaking, when does it even out to just be the worst team to get in the postseason every single year and your chance to make the postseason? Like if I said we're going to get in the postseason every single year for 20 straight years, we probably won't have the best team. Is our chances to win the World Series better or worse than having the absolute best team in baseball but making the playoffs once or twice? Like, where does that actually end up being the same? Is it 5 postseasons, 6 postseasons, 7 postseasons? Because I would venture to say that's probably the number in my top of my head. Like 7 postseasons versus 1 postseason with the absolute best team in baseball. I would think the 7 postseasons would be a better chance to win it all. I could be wrong on that, but I would be curious to know what that is.
Yeah, and we had talked, I don't know the exact number, but we kind of looked at the Orioles, and their odds were about 10% going into the playoffs, right before the playoffs started last year. I think that's probably the cap for a small market team, a team that's not going to spend $300 million. I think the Dodgers have gotten up to like almost 20%, but that's still, it's still only 20%.
Right.
So I think that 10, maybe 15 if you stretched. Personally, I would take 10 trips to the playoffs at 5% odds over 2 trips at 10%. I mean, like, right. I just think that. Oh, and the worst case scenario is you have 10 winners. You have 10 teams that you at least enjoyed 162 baseball games, as opposed to 2 teams that gave you a better chance, but if they lose, like the other years, all suck. So
right.
I don't. It's your perspective. I mean, I guess a lot of it. I'll try not to be too mad at people who think differently than that, but I'll just tell you that's how I feel.
Yeah, it's almost like would you rather just live in a nice suburban household and have a nice middle class income and have, 2 cars in your family and have a couple kids and be able to live, not recklessly, but, live a nice life? Or are you the type of person that would rather push a button and there be a chance that you're a billionaire or a multi-millionaire, but on that same chance, you're willing to risk the fact that you could be homeless? Some people are willing to do that. Some people are like, I don't care. I'd rather go for the gold and it be absolutely horrific on the other end than to be right, in a spot where you're just above middle, just above average. And it seems like for a small market team, high middle class, if you want to put socioeconomics in this baseball show, that seems to be the best you could possibly do with the way that baseball is set up. I could be wrong. People are going to say, let's be honest. I mean, having statistically the best team in baseball with who we are and what we're dealt in regards to our financial situation with the ownership group / market size, if you're not thinking that way, then I just don't think you're being realistic. So doesn't mean you can't win, to be very clear. You damn can. And the Brewers have proved that. The Rays obviously have proved that time and time again. The Orioles have proved it recently. And I would even say, I guess, the Tigers obviously are proving that as we speak as well. So in the meantime, enjoy. I guess we'll enjoy the off day tomorrow and then enjoy the weekend as well. Me and Nick will obviously be back here better than ever here for most of what will be the trade deadline. So as soon as news strikes, we'll try to get on here as quickly as possible and have a discussion about it. But until then, go Reds. As a reminder, July 29th from 4:30 to 6:30, we will do a show down at Smoke Justice. Please, if you have the ability to come check it out. We will give the first 50 attendees a free Chatterbox t-shirt. So for myself and Nick Kirby, take care, everybody, and have a lovely, lovely day in the United States of America. See ya.